to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. Number 2, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of the Lord Vishnu. Number 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Number 4, to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance to the Vedic version. Number 5, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be an imagination. Number 6, to give some interpretations to the holy name of the Lord. Number 7, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. Number 8, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities, Karma Kanda. Number 9, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Number 10, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to achieve the desired success, Krishna Prem. So once again, welcome to today's call and thank you very much for joining us. Moving on to our next session, which is Srimad Bhagavatam class. I will let all the devotees on the call to please go ahead with your introductions now.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Radha Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from College Station, Texas.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Radha Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karuna Devidasi from me.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Karuna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Radha Mataji, Yoga Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajis. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Raleigh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Neetu Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. This is Radha Pyari Devyasi from Baltimore. Dhanavad Pranam Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Radha Pyari Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavad Pranams. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to the assembled Vaishnavas on the call. Vasundhara Devidasi from Bangalore, India. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vasundhara Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances unto you, the devotees here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Ekaradika Leela Devidasi in Iowa, United States.
Hare Krishna, Eka Radhika Leela Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Do we have any more introductions? We have a couple of more minutes to go.
I think Balabhadra Kripa Prabhu is there. He's available to read introduction. Prabhu, are you? He was there. I don't know where he went.
He's not there, Mataji.
Oh, he joined Mataji. I saw him.
Okay.
And maybe his internet connection. He was there, Mataji.
Does Lakshmi Mataji want to read?
Yeah, I can do that
Yeah.
too.
I
Nishita
can
Mataji
send
is
the
not here today.
introduction.
I
Yeah.
don't have Mataji on the call.
I
Maybe.
can do it.
Otherwise, we can chant. Maybe if that is a situation, we can chant also. I can send the introduction in the group, Mataji. You can check there.
Thanks,
It's in
Mataji.
the playlist in description box. I saw him. Maybe my eyes.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. We're extremely fortunate to have His Grace Ramgiridhari Prabhuji here with us today. And Prabhuji would be enlightening us by discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 3, and verse 22. But before we dive into this nectarine class, I would like to read a brief introduction about today's speaker, His Grace Ramgiridhari Prabhuji. So Ramgiridhari Prabhuji is a disciple of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. He's practicing Krishna consciousness since 1989. He hails from Sringam, Tamil Nadu, India, and currently living in Navi Mumbai. He's a trustee in Bhaktivedanta College, Radha Desh, and Alfred Ford School of Management, Belgium. He's responsible for collecting annual reports from all the ISKCON temples, preaching centers, Namahats, and process and maintain the database. This service is under the purview of governing body council of ISKCON. He's the director of North American Institute of Oriental and Classical Studies, Tennessee, and he is one of the leader of the Congregation Developmental Initiative of ISKCON, Navi Mumbai. He organizes various programs and he preaches to young children and youths in Mumbai. He has master's degree in software system from Birla Institute of Technology and Science, that's BITS Pilani, and bachelor's of engineering in electronics and instrumentation from Anna University, Chennai. He is also a co-founder and a managing director and a CEO of Goranga Soft Tech Private Limited as a software development and technology service company since 2007. He's a co-founder and director of Golok Education. It's an educational institution. It's an educational resource development company since 2011. He's a co-founder and director of Gokul Kids Education, an early education, childhood education initiative of Golok Education. Prabhuji has a lot of services in his kitty. So with that was a brief introduction about today's speaker.
I'll give a call to Prabhuji Mataji. Meanwhile, we can chant.
Yeah, let's chime meanwhile. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Prabhu will be there in 2 minutes. We'll continue chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yeah, Prabhuji there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Ramgiridhari Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for giving us your valuable time and association this morning and enlightening us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. Without further ado, I'd like to request you to please take over from here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. And it's always a pleasure to be in the assembly of devotees to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very kind of you to have invited me to perform this service. Let's start with the invocation prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 3, text number 22. Shri Narada Uvacha Iti Yuktva Devo Bhaksi Tangam Pipilikai Kamandalu Jalena Kaukshat Divyena Mogaradasam. Translation. Shri Narada Muni continued. After speaking these words to Hiranyakashipu, Lord Brahma, the original being of this universe, who is extremely powerful, sprinkled transcendental, infallible spiritual water from his Kamandalu upon Hiranyakashipu's body, which had been eaten away by ants and moths. Thus, he enlivened Hiranyakashipu. Purport. Lord Brahma is the first created being within the universe and is empowered by the Supreme Lord to create. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. The Adi Deva or Adi Kavi, the first living creature, was personally taught by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the heart. There was no one to teach him, but since the Lord is situated within Brahma's heart, Brahma was educated by the Lord himself. Lord Brahma, being especially empowered, is infallible in doing whatever he wants. This is the meaning of the word Amoga Radasa. He desired to restore Hiranyakashipu's original body, and therefore, by sprinkling transcendental water from his water pot, he immediately did so. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshurun Militam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham Namaham Vishnu Padayam Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedantam Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanyam Prabhu Nityanandam Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Narada Uvacha Iti Yuktva Bhavo Devo Bhaksi Tangamiti Likai Kamandalu Jalena Kaukshat Divyena Mogaradasam. Shri Narada Muni continued. After speaking these words to Hiranyakashipu, Lord Brahma, the original being of this universe, who is extremely powerful, sprinkled transcendental, infallible spiritual water from his Kamandalu upon Hiranyakashipu's body, which had been eaten away by ants and moths. Thus he enlivened Hiranyakashipu. So, the context that we are in is a very wonderful series on Prahlad Maharaj episode, where Hiranyakashipu has just performed the most severe austerity that one can imagine. The way Hiranyakashipu performed austerity, even Lord Brahma and several other demigods, they were surprised. If he had continued further, it would have definitely affected the balance of the universe. The tapasya has got the potency not only to purify one's individual consciousness, the tapasya can eventually, one person's tapasya, one person's sacrifice, one person's austerity can influence a larger audience. Hiranyakashipu's tapasya, it may apparently appear that it was only himself. What is a great deal? Everybody knew he is Hiranyaksha's brother. Everybody knew what Hiranyaksha had done. Everybody knew that Hiranyakashipu is performing this tapasya only to challenge Devatas and Vishnu. So what is the big deal? They could have let him die. If ants and moths have even eaten his body, what is the big problem? Why to show some sympathy? So the agenda here is that the nature of the austerity, the nature of intense tapasya of someone is such that it can actually destroy others' balances also. And it is not officially, socially, emotionally, spiritually allowed to have someone undergo such a suffering. The government, when somebody performs demonstration, for example, there is a social activist in Maharashtra, he is performing hunger strike for some caste allocation. He is performing hunger strike. How does the government getting affected? He is performing hunger strike. It is his free will. Nobody is forcing upon him, but he is sitting on a social cause. So government sends several agents to request him, please relinquish your hunger strike. And recently, Chief Minister personally came and said that your request will be fulfilled. So several such demonstrations may have personal impact, but it is socially not accepted because it is also going to affect the social imbalance by the way of government, higher authorities tolerating someone, inoculating someone, killing themselves like that. Because a praja, a citizen, is supposed to be looked after, protected by the king. If the citizens are not being protected, not being looked after, especially when they are performing some austerities, not harming others by harming oneself, so some consideration have to be shown upon him, even though their requests are completely unacceptable. So temporarily it was important for pacifying, satisfying a person's needs. This is basic social norm. So Hiranyakashipu's tapasya may not be bona fide in terms of his desire and ambition for which he was performing. But because the tapasya's effect was very intense and would eventually impact the social imbalance, and technically speaking, by the way of him performing the tapasya, he fulfilled certain criteria in the sense that he has satisfied he is able to control his senses, Lord Brahma had to come down. So my first reflection in this current context is Hiranyakashipu's tapasya, austerity, is not in the mode of goodness, is not even in the mode of passion. It is in the mode of ignorance. Even though somebody's tapasya is in the mode of ignorance, the tapasya has got a value. To the extent that Brahma has to come down to hear his plea. So any amount of sense control, any amount of doing some tapasya is to be respected. Maybe the end result may have different, detrimental cause, but just because of the virtue of Hiranyakashipu performing tapasya. I'll give an example. A person is going to the bank, having his ID, having his address proof, having all the basic data of his existence verified. He will be able to open a bank account. He will be able to operate the bank account by putting in money and withdrawing money. Even though the money he must have been depositing and earning would be because of some abominable activities. So long as they are exposed, so long as the trail is, revealed and he is caught, the bank cannot say that you are not following 4 regulatory principles. You are not having, devotional attitude. You are not a very sane person. You tell, lies. The bank may not be able to, find someone responsible like that. So a person's personal conduct, a person's personal austerity, tapasya that he has been performing, even though they are of tamasic in nature, by the virtue of the austerity, Brahma had to come down. Brahma and heard Hiranyakashipu's plea. Hiranyakashipu said that he wants immortality. And as you all would have discussed, Brahma said it is not possible because I am bound by some rules. Even I have some limitations. Brahma's day, one day, is 430 crores of years. 430 crores is 4.3 billion or maybe 43 billion years. So that is his one day. And every day when Brahma's day is over, when his night come in, there is a pralaya. And every night when pralaya happens, the next day morning of Brahma, he has to take instruction from the Lord on how to do creation. Every day this is agenda. Prabhupada writes in 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, shloka number 5-6 in the purport. Srila Prabhupada writes that Brahma's day, when it is over, there is a partial pralaya. And the next day when Brahma wakes up, the Brahma has to take advice from the Lord. This is an everyday agenda. Like that, Brahma lives for 100 years and there is a Mahapralaya. So the Brahma's director, the Brahma's authority, Supreme Lord, he is constantly giving advice to Brahma. But that Brahma, who is powerful, empowered personality, is also bound by certain authorities, certain conditions, where if a person performs severe austerity, he has to come down, hear his plea, and try to satisfy him. In India, recently there was a agricultural farm laws that were formed by the government. some group of agriculture, farmers, they did not agree to that law. For one whole year, or almost like 7-8 months for sure, they did a demonstration by blocking the road every day and night. They were standing there. Finally, the government had to withdraw the farm laws. So anytime when there is an extremism shown by a praja, it is Raja's duty to come down, intervene, evaluate, and try to give best justice. So Brahma's duty was to come down, see Hiranyakashipu's state of mind, try to explain him that what he is trying to aim is not very much appreciated. At the same time, for whatever austerities he has done, he has to be rewarded. Otherwise, he would go further intense and it will create further disturbances. And it is explained that austerity is done in the mode of ignorance. Even though the name is austerity, it is simply a disturbance to the society. An example is given that Ravana performed Brahmacharya Vrata. Ravana maintained Brahmacharya for 12,000 years. He remained as an Aishtika Brahmachari. But since the central focus for his Brahmacharya Vrata is not to please the Lord, he landed up in doing more rascaldom than one can imagine by kidnapping Mother Sita. Gandhari, a chaste lady, she, as soon as she got married to Dhritarashtra, because she is chaste, she immediately blinded herself. And she wanted to communicate that because my husband is blind, I will not show any superior quality and try to, show off better than him. So she blinded herself. But because her purpose of blinding herself was not to please the Lord, was not to perform devotional service, after her sons were killed, she cursed Krishna to death, and that caused Yadava's death. So sometimes the so-called demoniac people glorify such austerities. Even till now, in Sri Lanka, there are people who believe Ravana as a hero. Yeah, he just did some small mistake of kidnapping a girl, that's all. What's the big deal? Otherwise, he's a hero. He gave us Swarna Lanka. He gave us a very superb, wonderful, lifestyle. So my first reflection is two-folded. Any austerity, any tapasya anyone performs, it is the duty of the higher management, the higher lord, the higher demigods to somehow or other respond to them. They cannot just write it off like that. And second part of the first reflection is that if that austerity is not to please the Supreme Lord, such an austerity is srama evahi kevalam, simply waste of time. Austerity is not done or done without the focus of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is not the benefactor. Then such an austerity is simply to be rejected. So this is the first reflection. So it is very important to take a note that Hiranyakashipu's endeavor brought him apparently a result, but which is eventually going to be cause of his own death. Vinashakale viparida buddhi. So one should not be proud. One should not be elated. One should not be very, self-contented when they apparently get some things accomplished by their notoriousness. You may get temporary results. We may get temporary success. But so long as we understand that if the ultimate purpose of doing that action is not Krishna, then it is simply waste of time. Dharmasya anustita pumsa visvakshena katasuya natad bada yatiratim shramaye vahi kevalam. It is simply waste of time. So such an austerity is never welcome. That's why Prabhupada is very clear that the austerities that we perform in ISKCON, they are all meant to please the Lord. One day Srila Prabhupada was in a temple where devotees were, performing Ekadashi Vrata. In the earlier times, I presume so that the Ekadashi Vrata amongst the devotees used to be pretty intense. Devotees used to be performing Nirjala or some sort of a very intense austerity. And naturally, they were not used to such austerity. So what happened was, on the day of Ekadashi, all the devotees in the temple, they were in one corner of the temple and they were all, completely tired. Unlike they were usually enthusiastic to go out and preach and distribute Sankirtan, Harinam, they were all, lying down in one corner because of hunger or whatever that is. Srila Prabhupada came out and said, what is this? This is Ekadashi day. Madhava Titi Bhakti Janani Jatane Palana Kari. Ekadashi Vrata is meant to please the Supreme Lord. By lying down in one corner of the temple, how are we going to please the Supreme Lord? In the name of Ekadashi Vrata, you don't eat, and neither you chant, neither you serve, nor you glorify. How this Vrata is going to be, successful? So he immediately ordered, please make sufficient prasadam for everyone, feed nicely, eat nice prasadam, go out and distribute books and do Harinam Sankirtan. That is the best way of performing, Ekadashi Vrata. Of course, avoid the grains, that's all. So don't assume some austerity just to prove a point. Hiranyakashipu did that. Hiranyakashipu's austerity was in the mode of ignorance. And even the mode of ignorance, austerity also attracts the authorities. But eventually, you have to, face your own action. So the consequences of Hiranyakashipu's austerity, he himself faced it. And eventually, the Lord came as death personified and finished him off. So my first reflection hence is, we should make sure that our austerities, whatever that we may perform, in our Krishna consciousness context, whenever we use the word austerity, these austerities are meant for purifying our senses and pleasing the Lord. If pleasing the Lord agenda is not there, if it is only to prove a point, then we can simply ignore that, simply reject that. Such an austerity is not going to take us anywhere. Second, in the purport, Prabhupada writes that there was no one to teach him, but since the Lord is situated within Brahma's heart, Brahma was educated by the Lord himself. Lord Brahma, being especially empowered, is infallible in doing whatever he wants. This is the meaning of the word Amoga Radhasa. He desired to restore Hiranyakashipu's original body, and therefore by sprinkling transcendental water from his water pot, he immediately did so. So Brahma's service towards the Supreme Lord is always very unique. Many a times Brahma has done this. Brahma, in the mood of service to Krishna, he performs the act of creation, but at times he is also confused about the activities and the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. We know the pastime of Brahma Vimohan Leela in Vrindavan. So Brahma, by him sanctioning, did not know that eventually the Supreme Lord has to interfere to fix this situation. He gave, using his authority, he said, Tathastu, so be it. He explained little bit to Hiranyakashipu, saying that I can't make you immortal. I can't make you, whatever you're asking for. But I will be considerate in what you're currently asking and whatever his wish was. I should not be killed by a human. I should not be killed by an animal. I should not be killed inside or outside. All that entire list. Because Brahma was in the position of executing his duty to fulfill something for the person who performed austerity, he said, okay. And look at what Lord's reciprocation is. When the Lord eventually appeared, he had to consider both criteria. Whatever promises Brahma gave, he had to keep that words intact. And he needed to make sure that Hiranyakashipu is duly punished. This is how Krishna functions. So many a times in our devotional service, we may perform an action, we may perform something, we may do some things with little or amateurish understanding. Our Guru, our spiritual authorities, because they love us, to protect us, they take responsibility in their hands and try to clear the damage. Because technically what Brahma did is a big damage. Had Brahma not accepted, had Brahma not utilized this power, had Brahma stopped Hiranyakashipu, sorry, I can't do anything. I do not know what would have happened. Nobody knows what would have happened. But for sure, Hiranyakashipu would have gone one step further to intensify things. Because his agenda is to prove a point. But such mistakes, so because Brahma is a sincere servant of the Supreme Lord, the reason why it is explained here is that Brahma is directly instructed by the Supreme Lord, which means he is under Krishna's care. His sanctioning was a apparent quote-unquote mistake, but Krishna, when he came as Narsinghadev, he kept Brahma's words and integrity of Brahma. At the same time, he finished off Hiranyakashipu. This is Supreme Lord. This is Vaishnava. A Supreme Lord or a Vaishnava, a spiritual master, is always very much intelligent enough. They try to establish the righteousness in a very unique way. Srila Prabhupada, when he was trying to preach, he knew his followers from a non-traditional upbringing may have their own shortcomings. But Srila Prabhupada still gave them the necessary love, made the best use of the situation and established the Sankirtan mission. Srila Prabhupada knew, some devotees asked Prabhupada, why are you taking things pretty fast? Srila Prabhupada knew what he was getting into. Srila Prabhupada knew why he was empowering whomever he was empowering. Srila Prabhupada knew that what risk he was taking, even though it was a risk. Because Srila Prabhupada was empowered personality and he tried to take the responsibility. That is why in one day when he was sitting in Mayapur Dham, he was telling that because of the mistakes of my disciple, I have to face the suffering. I have to face the consequences. So Guru plays the role like similar to Krishna and try to protect the disciples and give them some hope in practicing Krishna consciousness. At the same time, Guru is heavy in making sure no miscreants, no antisocial elements come and disturb the Sankirtan mission. So my second reflection here is that Brahmaji's apparent acceptance to Hiranyakashipu can be challenged, but Krishna somehow, both because of a Leela, it happened, as well as Krishna somehow wanted to show that my devotees are always under my care, and whatever they do, I take responsibility and I will make sure that their words are kept. At the same time, miscreants are punished. Vaishnava's words are very powerful, so he will maintain them. He will protect them. At the same time, miscreants are punished. Third reflection. This is about the performance of sacrifice in the mode of goodness, in the mode of seeking the Supreme Lord. Such a similar intense sacrifice was performed by Dhruva Maharaj. Here, Hiranyakashipu's tapasya, Hiranyakashipu stood on 1 feet, raising both the arms. So, he surrounded himself with fire. Very, very intense. Dhruva Maharaj, when Dhruva Maharaj was performing the austerity, at a point in time when Dhruva Maharaj stopped eating fruits, stopped eating leaves, stopped even breathing, that's when the whole world started to, choke up. And the difference here is, Dhruva Maharaj's austerity also had this intensity that it attracted Vishnu to appear. Hiranyakashipu's austerity was also very intense, that it attracted his authority, Brahmaji. But the big difference here is, Dhruva Maharaj performed austerity under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, as Narada Muni directed. When Dhruva Maharaj wanted to see Krishna face to face, when Dhruva Maharaj wanted to have audience with the Supreme Lord, he did not know where to go. He did not know how to approach. He did not know where else he can go and find out God. But all he knew is he wanted to see God. Somewhere, Narada Muni got this message and reached that spot. So my third reflection is that in our Krishna conscious journey, in our endeavor to practice Krishna consciousness, we need to understand that our eagerness to see the Lord has to be validated, supported, blessed by our spiritual authorities. Whimsical performances will always lead to whimsical and detrimental result, as Hiranyakashipu faced. But the austerity performed by Dhruva Maharaj, even though his purpose of aspiring to see Krishna was for his personal agenda, but Narada Muni knew who Dhruva Maharaj is eventually going to be. So by Krishna's arrangement, by Krishna's blessings, by Dhruva Maharaj's intense desire, Narada Muni arrived at that spot, challenged Dhruva Maharaj. Don't do this, don't proceed further. And he gave multiple reasoning. You're a small boy, you won't get food. You're a small boy, there will be ferocious animal. There won't be anybody to play with you. You are from a king's family, there is no such arrangements here. So many things that he said. When Dhruva Maharaj showed his vairagya, showed his determined, state of mind to see the Lord, Narada Muni educated him, taught him how to perform the sacrifice. And finally, he saw Krishna face to face. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we have multiple episodes where we get to hear that a person who is performing devotional service, those who are performing severe austerities, if they are directed by a spiritual authority, they make it to Krishna. If they are independent and whimsical, they don't make it to Krishna. they face their own death. So my third reflection is, somewhere or other in our journey to Krishna consciousness, in our endeavor to practice Krishna consciousness, every decision with respect to our Krishna consciousness practices, if they are validated, supported, endorsed, and blessed by a Vaishnava, you will be able to see Krishna. How much ever strong Hiranyakashipu's tapasya may have been. And the fourth and last reflection of this particular context, it is about the mentality of independence versus interdependence. One of the reasons why Hiranyakashipu was performing this tapasya is to establish the Asura Rajya. His brother was killed, so he wanted to prove a point, to challenge, to retaliate, to give a befitting answer to Mahavishnu, to Vishnu, who apparently killed Hiranyaksha. But subtly speaking, as an Asura, he is not able to assimilate the fact of interdependence. In our Krishna consciousness journey, the more we are able to think about having an independent lifestyle according to our own whims and fancies, we will be victim of Kali Purusha. When a person is wanting to operate independently successful, independently challenging, independently powerful, never want the Supreme Lord's intervention, never wants the dependency on the Supreme Lord, then he will have to face the consequences that Hiranyakashipu faced. Hiranyakashipu's end, he eventually had to face Krishna as death, Narasimha as death. So this concept of interdependency is very much needed in Krishna consciousness. So the difference between Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu, even though Prahlad was Hiranyakashipu's son, because Prahlad had a spiritual master, because Prahlad had heard Srimad Bhagavatam, he had built in a sense of interdependency within his heart. There is a very nice story of how Prahlad Maharaj became a devotee. This is given in Padma Puran in one place. And in spite of Hiranyakashipu's such an animosity towards Lord Vishnu, how did Prahlad Maharaj become a devotee? I'm not sure if you all had discussed this or not. What happened was, when Hiranyakashipu left home, he told Kayadu, his wife, that I'm going to perform some severe austerity. I will come after several years. So when he started performing the fire sacrifice, or not fire sacrifice, when he started performing his tapasya, Hiranyakashipu started to perform very serious, severe austerity, and Indra, Chandra, Varuna, all the demigods, they saw Hiranyakashipu's act. And they had just got settled after Hiranyaksha was killed. Hiranyaksha died, and they just got settled. And when they saw Hiranyakashipu once again performing this act, they got restless. Oh my God, this guy is going to once again create a ruckus. We just got settled out of a major, saga. So all the demigods, they decided, they came down where Hiranyakashipu was about to perform his tapasya, his austerity, and they surrounded him. When he was sitting in the meditating posture, they surrounded him. And they came and started saying Vishnu, 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 Vishnu. So the person whom he hated the most, or the person against whom he wants to perform tapasya, they came and chanted his names more loudly to irritate him. So Hiranyakashipu got irritated and left the place and went back to the palace. So this in Krishna Kathamrita Bindu, one of the oldest magazines, Madhavananda Prabhu has done this research and mentioned this. So Hiranyakashipu is going back to the palace and had sex with his wife Kayadu, and Prahlad was born in the womb. It is said because he came back constantly meditating on the names of Vishnu, even though not in a favorable spirit, he was constantly, because he heard from the demigods were constantly chanting, constantly, irritating him. So he came with so much of that, consciousness that people are constantly saying Vishnu, 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 Krishna, 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 Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. So he chanted so many times of Krishna, Vishnu, Narayana. It is explained that it gave the effect of Garbhadana Samskar. Even though it was not chanted in a very pure frame of mind, the holy name had got some effect. And Prahlad was, Prahlad came into Kayadu's womb. The idea is that any dependency, any connection, any association with the Supreme Lord or Supreme Lord's agents, that interdependence will bring in transformation in one's life. So it is imperative that in our practicing Krishna consciousness, we need to build in the sense of interdependency. Interdependency with holy name, interdependency with Vaishnavas, interdependency with our seva. Our life should be centered around sadhu, seva and harinam. And then what happens is that all our quotients are aligned and will form a very important combination to be able to regulate us towards the positive direction of Krishna consciousness. That is the difference between a demigod and a demon. Independence versus interdependence. According to the modern idea, independence is considered as a signs of advancement. I am independent, I am free, I am able to function. But according to the science of Krishna consciousness, independence is the biggest curse to Vedic lifestyle. According to modern idea, interdependence is considered as old school. And spiritual thought processes, it is healthy, wiser, and sustainable. So the person who had built in the sense of interdependency with Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, he is considered as an intelligent follower. So Prahlad Maharaj, by his interdependency, his dependency on the Supreme Lord, his surrender to the Supreme Lord, his acceptance to this process of Krishna consciousness, because of the blessings that he has received from Narada Muni, is an establishment of the power of interdependence. Interdependence here should not mean that the Lord is dependent on me and I am dependent on the Lord. Here interdependency depends upon how I am dependent on a Vaishnava, and my dependency on a Vaishnava is the basis on which I am performing my devotional service. And a Vaishnava should help another Vaishnava, and by that way, bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Dadadi pratigrhnati guhyam akyadi brichati bhukte bhojayate chaiva satvitam priti lakshanam. So it is important that these austerities that they have shown may be very attractive, but it's not something that interests our devotees. Prabhupada is completely against, or Vaishnava Acharyas are completely against They are not asking us to do all these things. Rather, they are saying, Stane stita stuti gatan tanuvan manopi. It is explained, Stane stita stuti gatan tanuvan manopi, meaning wherever you are, in whichever state of mind, whichever position, ashrama, varna you belong to. If you perform devotional service dependent on a Vaishnava, you are betterly situated than somebody apparently, trying to, sacrifice and perform some very strong tapasya. Vishwamitra Muni, he became Vishwamitra Muni in a very interesting arrangement. He was originally a Raja. When he came to Vasishta Muni's ashram, Vasishta Muni fed the entire entourage, entire soldiers and entire sena of the king so sumptuously that he got super surprised. You are such a simple person in such a small hermitage, how you could feed tens and thousands of people. So Vasishta Muni, showed the Surabhi cow that he had. So as a king, he said, please give me the Surabhi cow. He didn't even say please. He said, let me have the Surabhi cow. I am the king, I demand. Vasishta Muni said, you can't demand like that. She is here and she is blessed to be, I am blessed to have her with me. So this is the arrangement. You cannot demand, you cannot snatch her away from me. To cut the long story short, just to prove a point, he became Raja to Rishi to Raja Rishi, from Raja Rishi to Maharishi to Brahma Rishi. And in every stage of transformation, he did some mistakes and, once again, came up. When he became Rishi, he acquired so much of potency. For Trishanku, he had to relinquish all of them. There was a person by name Trishanku who was denied entry to the heavenly planets. So Vishwamitra Muni, he took charge of him and said, I will create, by my Rishi power, I will create entire universe for you. And he finished off all the acquired power by creating Trishanku Loka. Then he said, oh my God, what a stupid person I am. Then he once again performed a meditation. He became Raja Rishi. The story is that eventually he had to perform a severe austerity for thousands of years of austerity once again. And this time Brahma became little shivery. Not Brahma, Indra. So he sent Menaka. It is said for thousands of years he didn't hear the sound of an ankle bell of a woman. But then on that day, when he heard Menaka's sound, he immediately got attracted and eventually Sakuntala was born. So like that, he kept on losing his power, then once again regaining, losing his power, regaining. Finally, he was given the title Brahma Rishi only after Vasishta Muni saw a sense of humility, repentance and surrender, which means expressing that I am not independently, able to function. I cannot independently function. I am fully dependent on the mercy of my seniors, mercy of my spiritual authorities. When that humility came in Vishwamitra's life, he was given the title Brahma Rishi by Vasishta. So we have several examples by how one in their spiritual journey can show in some signs of interdependency. And in our Krishna consciousness journey, it is very important that we don't try to operate independently. We try to operate under the authority of a bona fide spiritual master. To summarize our learnings today, we need to learn that how in our performance of austerities towards the Supreme Lord, these austerities are supposed to be pleasing, beneficial, and supported by Vedic perspectives. Otherwise, these austerities are classified as austerities in the mode of passion or ignorance. So Hiranyakashipu's austerity was completely condemned. It was in the mode of ignorance, but still it was a duty for Brahma to appear and give some consolation, give some response, give some sort of a result for the apparent austerity that he has performed, and he sanctioned what within his power was. And the second part of the first reflection was any austerity that does not involve Krishna as the goal, Krishna as the object of surrender, Krishna as the personality to surrender, such an austerity is simply waste of time. The second reflection that we discussed was that how Brahma, in his blessings, in his sanction, he had sanctioned what was within his capacity, which eventually put Brahma also in a very interesting phase, where when Narsinghadev was appeared, when Narsinghadev finished Hiranyakashipu, Brahma was shivering. Prabhupada writes there that Brahma was guilty because for this entire act, Brahma was responsible. He thought so that because I sanctioned Hiranyakashipu's desire, that I became responsible for Prahlad Maharaj so much of endurance, so much of things. So Brahma was little concerned, so he couldn't approach Hiranyakashipu. So he couldn't approach Narsinghadev. But in any case, Krishna, he kept Brahma's words as well as he punished Hiranyakashipu. That way, our Guru and Krishna are always available to protect, rescue, but one has to be careful and responsible when they are taking any informed decisions. The third aspect of our devotional life, a third aspect of this particular episode is that somewhere or other in our spiritual journey, we are supposed to be learning to become interdependent and not be independent. If we are showing a sense of independence, then that is not okay. That will lead us only in trouble. Interdependence is very good. By Vaishnavas being interdependent, they glorify Krishna. Vaishnava being interdependent, they offer service to Krishna. They glorify each other and bring in Vaishnava culture. And the fourth reflection we had was the comparison between the tapasya performed by Hiranyakashipu vis-a-vis tapasya performed by Dhruva Maharaj. The tapasya performed by Dhruva Maharaj had absolute dependence, absolute surrender, absolute acceptance by Narada Muni, and with his blessings he could see Krishna. In case of Hiranyakashipu, because of his individual arrogance, his independence, he couldn't see Krishna, he could only see death personified. So in our devotional journey, it is important that how much ever knowledgeable, how much ever intelligent, how much ever privileged we may be, we need to learn to be completely follow in the footsteps of our predecessor acharyas, simply following their instructions as our life and souls. As we sing in our Guru Puja song, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Kariya Aikya. So we need to make sure that the words of our spiritual master are our life and soul, because Krishna speaks to us through Brahmanas, through Vaishnavas, through such self-realized souls. Brahmanosya Mukamasi Bahura Janyakritaha. So Hiranyakashipu eventually got blessings. Eventually now got, almost apparently, according to him, an immortal boon. So you will see now how his arrogance is going to pop out. He apparently performed austerities and controlled his senses. As I gave the example of Ravana, as I gave example of Gandhari, as I gave example of Vishwamitra, Even, Hiranyakashipu also, just after receiving Brahma's blessings, he is going to create such a ruckus, such a pain to everyone. And that is what is an asura. They are completely self-centered and their agenda is their only goal. Of course, in front of Krishna, nobody can, dance for a long time. So Krishna will come and finish these miscreants off. But then miscreants are miscreants with whom we are supposed to be extremely careful. We have Hiranyakashipu within ourselves. We have Ravana within ourselves. We have different types of asuric personalities within ourselves. Hence, let us invite the Supreme Lord. Let us plead the Supreme Lord to somehow or other help us kill those asuras within ourselves by invoking the auspiciousness, by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I am not sure how much I made sense or not. If there is any questions, comments, reflections, critics, concerns, disagreements, we all can, open to you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. It just made sense, Prabhu, nothing else. What a beautiful class, Prabhu. Very short time, actually, little under an hour, and you just gave the essence of what was to be given, actually. So very beautiful class, Prabhuji. I loved the example at the very start about the hunger strike and the bank account. That just resonates. We today see still hunger strike going on, and then the big politicians coming out and trying to pacify and give orange juice, Tropicana. And Prabhuji, I was thinking what to speak about other sinners. I was thinking, sinner like me, we come to ISKCON, and after a few years, other devotees started calling you, you're a senior devotee, and it puffs your ego. See, senior devotee, what senior devotee? I've done nothing. So, that small austerity that we are doing, which is not even to be called austerity, but of course, because Srila Prabhupada told us to do 16 rounds, we are doing 16 rounds, we are performing Ekadashi. And other people see and they think, Prabhuji senior devotee, no senior devotee, you probably the first person entering in temple who is not even having tilak, who is not initiated, he might be the biggest devotee. He might be, chanting Krishna names with more sincerity than I am doing in my 16 rounds. So this happens even here in our own world. So I was thinking that, and I was looking at you were sweating. I'm like, this is a pure devotee spreading Krishna name, which is touching my heart, and he's sweating in January. Bro, it's very difficult for us to sweat here in January in Northern America. We are having minus temperatures, minus 20, 30 at this time. And
I'm sweating because I had a very long day today, and just before the class, I had 2 sessions back to back, and I just ended a session and logged into this session, and also I have a very funny ventilation in this room, so otherwise I'm okay. Thank you for the observation, and
that's good. That's good, Prabhuji. That's good, Hari. Very good. But it was changing our hearts. I was thinking, this is the Krishna Bhakta who is there to do his service and changing our heart. Certainly, Prabhu, your reflections were amazing. If it is Shram, not Vedic, it's just Shram eva hi kevalam, as you said, na utpadi yadiratim Shram eva hi kevalam. And then, of course, Krishna, to keep his words, I love that word, Satyam Vidatum Nijbritya Bhashitam Vyaptim Chabhuteshu Akhileshu Chatmana. So, he presented himself in the middle. And I was reflecting, actually, I was thinking, even Srila Prabhupada in one of his earlier appointments, Srila Prabhupada says to one of the person, oh, we have hundreds of temples. And while Srila Prabhupada even didn't have the next month's rent. And then, just to keep his word, Krishna gave him not 100, but thousands of centers as of today. So Krishna sees what his pure devotee is saying, and he keeps his words. And certainly, Prabhu, depending on other Vaishnavas is so important. Otherwise, we can think, we can become actually Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, which is inside us in our heart, because courtyard of our heart is still not clean, at least my heart, Prabhu. So Krishna cannot come in the courtyard which is not clean. And when with the name, hopefully one day we will clean it by crying and, which is not happening still, Prabhuji. And then
Srila
certainly,
Prabhupada was once in a lotus building in Mayapur. He was sitting in his room and he was looking out the window, and he was tears were flowing from his eyes. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Jayapataka Maharaj, Brahmananda Prabhu, and all the other senior men, they went to Srila Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, why are you crying? Srila Prabhupada said, because those days what happened was in Mayapur, everywhere there were kiched, muddy. You know, where there were no sanitation, there were no toilets, there were no facilities. They were all knee-deep, mud. So people were falling sick like malaria and whatnot, all those diseases. So, and over and above that, dacoity, every, other day, some dacoits used to come and, shoot and do all sorts of notorious things. So Prabhupada said, just because I called you guys, you came here and performing devotional service, whilst you have servants, chauffeurs, and so many, support systems in your own country, in your own houses. You are from a very wealthy, multi-millionaire, family. Just because I called you and came here, and I am very much pleased and indebted to you. So Prabhupada's this gesture moved the heart of all the members and said that, Srila Prabhupada, you saved us from such a big tribulation, such a big problem. I mean, nobody can imagine, otherwise what else our life could have been. So sometimes the simple glance, simple acceptance to the words of a Vaishnava can save from a greatest of the danger. Jayapataka Maharaj was once in Radha Rasa Bihari temple here. He was narrating how in earlier days ISKCON needed funds. So devotees had to go for job. Resident full-time devotees had to go for 2 shifts. So they have to get up early in the morning, finish Mangalarti. 6 o'clock till 2 o'clock, he was performing a job. From 2 o'clock till night, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever time, they would perform another job, bring in money so that the temple could run. So Jayapataka Maharaj was, saying he went for a job as a janitor. So in one of the coffee shop, he became a janitor, and those days they used to have this Walkman. So they had Prabhupada's recording, kirtan as well as lecture. So what he used to do is that every day when he goes to the coffee shop to be the janitor, he used to take his necessary mopping stick and used to put the Walkman and very happily doing that. Very happily he was mopping, and one very rich guy came in a Rolls-Royce car and said, how you guys can be happy? You are just after all a janitor. How you can be happy? So people were not able to assimilate how these people who apparently being in a blue-collar job could be happy. Why is I'm such a rich guy coming in a Rolls-Royce car and such a thing? I'm not able to be happy. They couldn't even digest the fact. In spite of my boss used to constantly nag me, and every other time used to be telling me, I was pleasing, I was very happy because I was surrendered to Prabhupada, and whatever Prabhupada said was making a lot of sense to our lives, and we were saved. So he was just telling that time, one of the reasons why I am desiring to perform congregational preaching service was, he said that in Radha Rasa Bihari Prabhupada quarters, he said that one thing, to be a congregation, to be working under a materialistic boss and coming back and going back to a Krishna consciousness frame of mind and performing devotional service. It is not so easy because I was performing service in the temple and working for outside people. So to carry Krishna in our heart all the while with so much of disturbances. So I understood how a congregation needs to be nicely looked after and needs to be motivated. And second, he said that how when somebody is surrendered to Prabhupada, no disturbance is a disturbance. It was always a pleasure because Prabhupada personally looks after his surrendered souls. So I guess those words of the experienced people are such a booster, such a enabler for our devotional journey. So thank you so much for your appreciation.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So true, Prabhuji. It's a legacy we are in. I always think Srila Prabhupada, whatever he did to just fulfill words of his Guru Maharaj and his first disciples. We should all be indebted to them, because if not for them, and Srila Prabhupada's blessing, I don't think it was easy to make this legacy of ISKCON, which has to go for another thousands and thousands of years. So too, Prabhuji, Guru Agya Sharasi Dhritva Shaktya Vesha Swarupine Hare Krishna Mantrena Paschanta Pranta Tarine. That's what Srila Prabhupada did, and that's what his disciples are doing. Thank you so much, Prabhu. What a beautiful class and very beautiful narration of the last pastime that you just said, Prabhu. Very beautiful, Prabhu. Just beautiful. Only this pastime, Prabhu, and we can talk of Prabhupada, our bhakti can increase a little bit. Otherwise, there is no chance, Prabhu. Persons like me, especially, Prabhu. So I get connected with pastime. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Beautiful, beautiful, Prabhu. Prabhuji, with your permission, we'll go to the question answer session. There is
Yes,
Vinita Mataji who has her hand raised. Hare Krishna, Vinita Mataji, Danva Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Ramgiridhari Prabhuji, thank you so much for coming on the call, accepting our request in the last minute. Sorry for giving the last minute message, Prabhuji, but very, very beautiful class, Prabhu. I really like the example that you are giving for the king's responsibility, how a king responsibility to answer even that person is doing it in a wrong way or right way. It's to come down and you have to answer accordingly so that it should not disturb the society. That example really is so nice, Prabhuji. And also the bank example that you are giving. In that case, we are I'm talking about myself. Like, even I got my initiation, and I am so-called devotee and disciple of my Guru Maharaj, but I'm not following properly. So even though the Guru Maharaj is merciful, he gave me initiation, but I'm thinking now, as like how the bank we also get the account, but then we are not using it properly. I feel like I'm not using my the opportunity that my Guru Maharaj has given to me. So nice example, Prabhuji, that really it relates to me a lot, the example that you gave, so that I can understand what opportunity I got and how I have to use it. And other all examples, Prabhuji, was very, very wonderful. So nice class, especially that how the Brahma's role in giving these benedictions to Hiranyakashipu was very much clear for me. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Very beautiful realization. Yes, I agree with whatever you said. Beautiful examples by Prabhu. Especially, when we can think and we can be asked these questions. Are, why then Brahma, he is a demigod, he is giving these boons. But that just tells you that, especially, the strike example is so resonating with everyone. You can just give this example and, try to pacify other people's hearts. Sometimes they are not. I see Kiran Mataji was on the video all the time. Thank you, Mataji, for staying with us. It is so beautiful, when you can be there and listen to these classes, especially classes like Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I don't see any more questions. There are many comments, Prabhuji, from Mitra Vinda Mataji, from Preeti Vilasini Mataji, from Harita Mataji. Everybody is
They're all cheerleaders. If the player is not performing well, sometimes cheerleaders sometimes cheer up. Okay, Haribol, Haribol.
No, Prabhu, you performed very well, Prabhuji. And I am actually surprised. I did not know, Prabhu, that was the last minute call to you, Prabhu. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for accepting the call and coming on the call, because it's sometime, we all have our things to do, our regular family life things also, and the work things. You still gave us all this time, Prabhu. Very, very indebted to you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. And such a beautiful.
And that too back-to-back classes, Prabhuji.
Sorry,
that too, this back-to-back, I think, right? You were telling you have given already.
Yeah, this is the third session of the day.
So grateful to you, Prabhuji. I'm really sorry.
Christmas, Jesus Maharaj ki jai. Unke chutti pe hum mana rahe hain. So since morning we have been having a discussion because of his whatever day,
Jesus Maharaj ki jai. I love that, Prabhuji. We have to glorify all the devotees. He was a good devotee, very good devotee, actually. So thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you, dear devotees. If nobody has any further questions or comments, we will end the class here. Let us pay our obeisances to Prabhuji and all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vancha kalaptaru bhashya cha कृपा सिंधुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः।
नमो नमः।
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।
जय
जगत गुरु शीला प्रभुपाद जी की जय।
Jai.
वेरी डियर हिज ग्रेस रामगिरधारी प्रभु जी की जय।
Jai.
Thank you,
जय
Prabhu.
Thank you,
Beautiful
Prabhuji.
class.
Dandavat pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
गौरंगा
Nityananda.
गौरंगा
Gauranga.
गौरंगा।